welcome to The Lady Killers, a feminine rage podcast. Hello, and welcome to The Lady Killers, a feminine rage podcast. I am your host, Jennifer's Body Adams, and we are back, baby! Woo! It's been more than 10 years since a Terminator was sent back in time to kill us before we could collectively give birth to the leader of the resistance. But like Arnold, we're back. We've got some muscles, and we've got an episode on the greatest movie of all time, Terminator 2. Woo! I will sing the entire song. I will.
I believe you.
Exactly. Fortunately, the Resistance was able to send back a lone warrior to join us. She's a writer and the co-host of the Losers Club, Halloweenies and the Girls on the Boys, returning champion Rachel Reeves. Woo! Rachel, say hello and tell us, are you a fan of action movies?
You guys, I can't even believe I'm here talking with you two lovely ladies about the greatest film ever made.
Yes.
Fan of action movies, absolutely. That was
yeah, I figured that was like, that wasn't hard for me. I think I know her answer.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about it, and like action movies were really kind of even there before my love of horror. That was my entry point. Mm-hmm. These are things I would watch with my dad and that we could get away with for some reason. Like the gore and violence in movies like this and Predator was fine, but yet, you know, horror movies were like, oh no, you can't watch that as a child. No, you can't watch that violence. But somehow action was different. So I don't know how that logic tracks. But so this and movies like this have always had a really special place in my heart. And I am just so thrilled to be here to talk about this one with you guys today.
Hey, me too. And you can hear Rachel talk about action movies and action shows with me on the Girls on the Boys podcast also.
Well, Terminator 2 is still, it's the second highest, well, now I guess behind Wolverine and Deadpool, but it's still the highest grossing R-rated movie. And it's right, Rachel, because it was essentially like for kids too. Like everyone, the whole family could go. Yeah. And I think obviously because like there's a kid at the center of this film, but still it's like RoboCop. Like those movies aren't for kids, yet they marketed it for them.
Such
like,
a weird time.
And everything. Yes,
it was a weird time. We got away with a lot of things, you know.
If you put like robot or monster with kid, it's immediate for children.
Exactly.
Even though it's not.
And even like action stars like Rambo, like there were cartoons of Rambo, there were action figures for kids, and it's like these movies are about some heavy topics, not
RoboCop
for children.
Literally like shoots a dick off in that movie, and I think they even did an animated RoboCop.
Oh, totally. Too. Yep, give it to the boys. Yep, give it to the kids.
I've not seen RoboCop, but I want to see it now because I'm all about shooting dicks off. You know,
I love that we're all three girls talking boy movies, you know? Yeah, the boys. I'm with the girls on the boys.
You are with the girls on the boys. You're one of the girls on
I'm
the boys.
Honored.
Well, say hello and tell us, are you a fan of action movies?
This is Sammy. You forgot to say please, Kuykendall. And in all honesty, I'm very particular about my action films. Like I don't usually enjoy just action films that are solely for the sake of being action movies, if that makes sense. Like I need there to be a sort of genre element to it. Like sometimes I won't know if I like something until it's on. Mike struggles with that a lot. Like he'll pitch something to me and I'm like, I don't know. Like if it's like a Western or a spy thriller that doesn't have some sort of like sci-fi or fantasy element to it, or like creature or critter or puppetry or something, I'm like, it's gonna take a lot for me to put it on. But before I met Mike, I had never seen a Lethal Weapon movie. I'd seen one Die Hard movie, the Justin Long one. I had never seen a Mission Impossible, and I had never seen a Rocky film. And the irony is that I've ended up loving all of those franchises. Like I even have like an Italian Stallion shirt that is like my workout shirt. Like I love those movies, but I still haven't seen Creed. So that's like kind of, we watched them on Thanksgiving. But anyways, I would have never, put them on for myself. I still struggle to put on like movies if I'm home alone that aren't like I usually would put on like a fictional world or like with something with beasts or magic or even like a dystopian society before I've put on just like a solely action movie, especially one that I had never seen. But now I have Mike. and I have my girls and the boys to inspire me to branch out more because I've really enjoyed the ones I've watched since. Although I don't think I'll ever be able to do something like the Fast and the Furious. Because
Never say never. Never.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Never say never. But I have a hard time with car movies and like racing in general. Like when I was little and my dad would watch NASCAR, that shit used to piss me the fuck off because I'd be like, this is 4 hours of my goddamn day. Like I just please put on SpongeBob.
It's not about the cars, it's about family.
That's your family.
Yes, that's true. It's not the cars, it's the mileage, I guess.
That's true. Yeah, and it's interesting.
Well, Jen, yeah. How about you?
I really do love action movies, and I think I'm kind of with you, Rachel. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I watched action movies before I watched horror movies. Even though I was always drawn to scary stuff, I think it was easier to watch the action movies, And like this one, I watched it so much, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's also like it was edited for TV, so like a lot of what they were editing out was just curse words, And I think that was easier than editing something like Evil Dead comes to mind, whereas that would have been something I would not have been allowed to watch.
There's not a ton of blood either.
There's not because they're metal,
Yeah, that's how you get away with it.
Exactly. But like I remember being really into action movies, specifically Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff, and like weather movies. Like I was very into Twister also, and like I do really enjoy action movies a lot. I think now looking back, I think I was looking for a little more genre. Like I don't put them on as much anymore because I kind of want scares, and I think this maybe have been like the thrill of the action may have kind of been an entryway into more like overt scariness, But I was a huge fan. I still love them. I have only watched the first Fast and the Furious, but we may watch that down the road at some point.
Never say never, as Rachel says. And we'll have to start a Fast and the Furious
get you
pod.
both eventually.
Exactly. I know. Well, and I mean, cars are ladies, right? So,
Yes. I mean, there's lady cars in cars.
That's
too. So
I have seen cars.
We can start a cars pod.
Well, let's talk about these cars. There are some fun cars in here, but there are also some big, giant robot men. And one of my favorite female characters of all time in this movie. Let's talk about her in her first category, her story.
I am so much happier now that I'm dead. Technically missing. Soon to be presumed dead. Gone. And my lazy, lying, cheating, oblivious husband will go to prison for my murder.
This is a section where we tell the story of the film. Spoilers abound, so listen at your own risk. Oh, I really want to say, I love this music too.
It feels like I'm going into the ride at Universal Studios.
Okay. 13 years ago, a cybernetic Terminator was sent back through time to kill Sarah Connor before she could give birth to John, who would lead a human army in a war against a supercomputer named Skynet and the Machines. But it failed, and a teen John now lives with foster parents while Sarah rots away in Pescadero State Mental Hospital. But Skynet doesn't give up that easily. Another Terminator is sent back to kill John. He's a T-1000 made of liquid metal who can take the shape and appearance of anything it touches, except bombs and whatever, and it's just knives.
It can turn into the floor, too. I got into like a whole argument with Mike last night because I was like, he has to turn into something that's
equal
to his size.
So it's the size of himself on the floor.
Like, is it that? Can he turn into a whole building or just the floor of the
He
building?
can turn into the amount of himself size of the building.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Jen.
Also,
thank you.
stabbing weapons. He can turn into that.
Yeah, and stabbing weapons. Yes.
Okay.
How about a beer?
Fortunately, future John is also able to send back a lone warrior to protect his younger self. In a truly spectacular mall showdown turned canal chase, the T-1000, who looks like a cop, tries to kill John while the T-800, aka Arnold Schwarzenegger, has been reprogrammed to protect him. Having escaped the immediate threat, they go to Pescadero, intent on breaking Sarah out, but she's already on it, and does not take kindly to her old nemesis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, turned friend. But they escape together in another incredible chase scene where the car goes backwards, it's so cool, and head off to get some guns. But while Sarah is rendezvousing with her old outlaw buddies and picking up some comically large weapons, she leaves John and Arnie for a side quest of her own. Arnie has told her that the person most directly involved with Judgment Day, which is a nuclear holocaust sparked by Skynet becoming self-aware, is Miles Dyson. And as John says, she's going to blow him away.
We gotta go. We gotta go.
Sarah does indeed try to assassinate Miles in his home in front of his young son, but John and Arnie stop her in the nick of time, and they have a sweet moment. They tell Miles that he's responsible for billions of future deaths and head to the lab to destroy his work. But as they smash stuff and set up a bunch of bombs, all the cops, including the T-1000, gather outside the building. Lots of non-lethal fighting ensues because Arnie promised John he wouldn't kill anyone.
Trust me.
Nice robot.
The building blows up with Miles inside it, and it's really sad.
It is. The breathing is so
my
good.
God,
Like
I
as it
know.
like slowly stops, that death rattle.
Oh, and then it just breaks my heart every time. And our non-traditional family escapes with a T-1000 hot on their heels in a helicopter. Super cool. Things come to a head at a steel factory where Arnie sustains significant damage. But with Sarah's help, he's able to push the evil T-1000 into a vat of hot lava, or I guess it's molten steel. Suffice to say, magma. Suffice to say, it melts after morphing through all of the forms it's taken. They destroy evidence of the first Terminator from Miles's lab, but there's one chip left. After a tender moment to say goodbye to John, Sarah lowers Arnie down into the hot metal steel.
With the silliest thumbs up ever.
It's like the end of Toy Story 3, like when they're all like about to go into the garbage chute in the fire, like with the toys. It's like, but at least they get
I know,
saved.
except he does melt.
He does. I know. I wish this was a Toy Story 3 ending.
But the future now stretches out like a dark and unknowable highway because there's no fate but what we make for ourselves, which is my favorite quote of all time. Love it.
Dun, dun,
It's just it's when she's like doing the one-armed cock with the gun is one of my favorite sequences. It's like it's so appealing to my ears to just hear it as it goes up and down. I just love it. And her like I can barely hold like 2 jugs of milk, so like the idea of cocking a shotgun but with one arm is just that's some sick shit.
Oh no,
you
my
know?
favorite is when Arnie's on the motorcycle and he's cocking it and then twirling it around and then he does it again.
Yes.
So cool.
That is literally what I looked like in Disney with my lightsaber not 2 days ago. So
Just
and I'm
plowing through some
I'm sure I looked
fences.
just as cool as that. Yeah.
There are so many scenes where I was, even this last time watching, I'm like, a human has never looked cooler.
Right?
And
No.
it's not just Arnie, it's not just Linda Hamilton, it's not just Robert Pattinson. I'm like, man, even
All of them. When
Edward
she smokes
Furlong,
the
I'm like, this is
cigarette,
a
when
kid?
she first is smoking
cool.
that cigarette with like her sunglasses and the tank top when
Oh,
she first
God.
comes out and her
Amazing.
bangs look great. Just
How's
like
the
peak
knee?
female. Yeah.
So cool. Okay, so I can gather that we all love this movie, but what is our story with Terminator 2? And which version did we watch? Rachel, what's your story with Terminator 2?
You know, it's funny. I don't know. I feel this is
I
a
don't
movie.
either,
I feel
yeah.
like it's always been there. I'm sure this was something I saw as a kid and I've seen a bazillion times since then. But the best part about it is I love it every time. Never gets boring, never get tired of it, never get sick of it. We'll never say no. Somebody asks you to watch T2, you say yes.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yes.
But this time I did watch that, what is it, just called the special edition?
I think, or extended or something.
Extended. I watched the extended cut, got to see some of those extra scenes with Kyle Reese and when some other kind of weird, silly stuff, I think, where
Smashing
like
the chip or something.
yeah, smashing the chip, and then I think there's something with the T-1000.
She had like a scene with John that I think is cut too.
Yeah, okay. And I know there's some extra stuff too with like the T-1000, some weird stuff about he touches a railing and his hand gets striped too, or something like that, kind of towards the end.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, give me all of it. I want all of it. I'll take it all.
Sammy, what about you?
So I didn't even know there was different versions of it until I saw this question. I was like asking Mike, I was like, what are the differences between the two? Because I don't know which one I watched the first time. But this was actually only my second James Cameron movie after Titanic, of course, which means I saw this one before I ever saw the first one. This is like a time where, you know, I don't know who directors are really. Like I was seeing a movie because it interested me, not because of who was behind the camera. Because, you know, I wasn't the cinephile I am today when I was little. And this movie came out before I was born. And it already like sort of like existed in the lexicon of pop culture. Like I was aware of the imagery, but it just never looked like something I would be interested in because it had this like quote boy movie all over it. And I guess like, I mean, like I said, with action movies, I was like a little prejudiced towards it. Like, oh, that movie isn't for me. It's just like my state's governor or like or should I say governator?
Oh, that's true, because you grew up in California, right?
Yes.
So,
and I mean, he became the governor like pretty early. Like I was pretty young, and you know, when you're cognizant, like those first, I was born in '83, so like by like 2000 is when I really remember like memories. But like all of the iconic lines had become like memes sort of at that point, even though like memes weren't like a thing yet. But I couldn't really take it seriously. Like it was just very like Planet Hollywood the movie to me, because it'd been like parodied to death by the time I was old enough to watch it. But when I was like 14, I was, you know, I've said I was always at my sister's house where she lived with her now husband. And I remember I had just like started smoking weed. I was very stoned and I still do that today. And I passed out on their couch for like a little nap, and I woke up to him watching this, and it was like right at the hospital escape scene. And I had no idea what they were watching, like, but I was really into it. And I don't even know if they knew like I was awake. I just laid there like sort of taking it all in. And at the end I was like, wow, like that was a really good movie.
And they're like, holy shit, you were awake the whole time.
Yeah, you're awake. Yes, yeah. But it was like that, and that's very rare for me. Like I don't just like sit and watch, like I, you know, especially in someone's house, and if I'm stoned, like I'll be talking about it, but I just like watched it with like my eyes wide and my mouth agape. And for years I would say like this was the best movie I had ever seen. And like, you know, since I have expanded my film knowledge, but it still sits fairly high on my list. And it wasn't until I met Mike that I actually watched the first one. And I adore that movie now. If I had known it was a love story, I would have eaten that shit up. But it really is like a Shakespearean tragedy and kind of like a forbidden love type of thing. It can never be like, that's like ripe for Sammy content. And now that I've seen both, I can say that to me, like the first one I think is the objectively better movie, but the second one is the one I prefer, if that makes sense. Like at surface level, I know. And Mike likes the first one more than the second one. I think the first one is a better movie as far as like dramas go, but I enjoy watching the second one more because I think at surface level, like as a sequel, T2 is one of the best examples of like make everything in the sequel bigger, but it has so much more going on than that. Like if you're just looking at the overall plot, that's all you'll see, but it's got a lot of like nuanced details and plot points that gives the movie its own heart. And I think like a great thing about this movie is that you can watch either without really needing the other. Like I said, like I watched the second one before the first one, and I didn't feel like I was really missing out on anything.
I was kind of wondering about that. My husband and I were talking about that watching it, and just like how it would hold up on its own if you didn't know about the first. And I was like, I think they do a good job of that. So it's, I'm glad to hear you say that.
Oh, I had no idea. Like, I mean, it was really jarring to see when I watched the first one that he's the bad guy. Like, because I was like, what do you mean? Like, this is my buddy. Like, this is my
dad.
Yeah. So it was like,
this is my governor.
My found family trope, you know, and now he's this evil being. But what's cool is like, you know, both movies were created in like a friendly enough way that you can kind of come away feeling satisfied enough with a complete experience in both. But at the same time, you're definitely rewarded with extra lore and connections if you watch both, obviously. And I love that. But it's sort of like a choose your own adventures type of situation. And it's, I think, one of the few examples of a sequel that not only follows its precursor, but builds on it to expand the concept that's already been introduced, because it's both a sequel and its own thing. And I think that's why it's held in such high regard. And to compare it to another Cameron film that I know obviously I know both of you are familiar with, but I know Rachel is very familiar with. Terminator 1 is to Alien as Terminator 2 is to Aliens. Both movies are fantastic, but they're different genres of film. Like Terminator 1 feels more like a slasher horror movie, and the male lead and female lead are being stalked by like an unstoppable killing machine. And Terminator 2 is the action film that we're talking about. It's why we're talking about it, because the hero and the villain are both unstoppable killing machines, but since one is the good guy, he doesn't kill now. So it's basically like these two powerhouses going against each other. And I think a good sequel takes the original film and builds upon it, which is what Terminator 2 does. You know, the twist of the T-800 being the good guy, which probably carried a lot more weight back when it was released in 91, was really fantastic and really cool. And I just think like, if anything, like this was shown to me at such a formative age that it gave me the fuel I needed to seek out really good movies and like actually have an interest in the way that they're made and the special effects and stuff like that.
I would give anything to be able to go back in time and watch this without knowing that Arnold was going to be the good guy. You know,
Yeah.
I think about that every time I watch that scene in the hallway of the mall when John is afraid and he doesn't know who to be afraid of. And then he just says, get down. And then it's like, you're in a whole different world. Like, and because I watched this before I watched the first one also. I think I remember the first one being on at my friend Angela's house, who had a whole bunch of older siblings. But I was like, it's too dark. It feels too sci-fi. Like, I just wasn't into it. And I think there's something about I watched this. I must have been 11 or 12 because I watched it on USA and I recorded it. And of course, it was edited. He doesn't say dickwad; he says dorkwad, and just various things like that. You know, I think they significantly cut out the part where he peels the skin off his arm. But other than that, like, there wasn't a whole lot edited out of it because, like you said, Sammy, there's not a ton of blood. But I think it was the fact that there was a kid in it around my own age that I was like, okay. Also, I had a crush on Edward Furlong because he's cute. He's a floppy haired menace, you know. But I just fell in love with this movie. I watched this and Dirty Dancing like just about every day over the summer. This now I look back and I'm like, okay, well, this was my OCD coming out. Like, this is a movie, but I just loved this movie so much. I feel like I keep comparing things to the Mummy franchise, but like the first one is a love story and this one is about parenting. And I feel like the Mummy 1 and 2 are kind of that too. And I also like the Mummy 2 better, which we just talked about on Girls on the Boys, because it's got this.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's good. It's got.
I'll have to check. I guess if the Girls on the Boys say so.
Brendan Fraser is a hot dad. Now, I'm not sure Rachel is signing off on my assertion that Mummy 2 is better.
I think they're both really fun though, for sure.
That's true.
So
well,
definitely
then I'll
worth
try
watching.
them out.
Yes.
But like, and I want to talk about this later, but like, I think what I was really drawn to was this family, you know, and you know, I've talked a little bit about like my home growing up, and I'm not going to go into detail, but it was kind of stressful, and I just didn't ever feel like I was the priority, I think, or that there were other things that were more important. And so watching this movie where both of the parents, their only concern was protecting their child, I think now that I look back on it, I think that's what I was really drawn to. Also, this really strong mother and woman. And I was like, wait, I can be a woman and I can be strong too. Like, that's.
And wear cargo pants.
And shoot guns. And I can do like, and I don't want to shoot guns, but like, I can do the things the boys can do and I can still be a girl, you know? And I loved it so much. I remember watching it over and over and over again. It's still my all-time favorite movie. And it wasn't until probably about 10 years ago that I think I actually admitted that it was my favorite movie, because I think I was thinking, okay, well, it's an action movie. Is it smart enough to be my favorite, you know? And now I think it is a perfect movie. I prefer it to the first one for a lot of nostalgic reasons, but I also I love what it's saying about AI. I love what it's saying about the value of human life and just parenting and what women can be. And so I'm so excited to talk about it.
Fate too. Fate is always really interesting to me. Serendipity type of things. The idea of if I had known that there was a time travel element to it as a kid, I would have been more inclined to check it out, because the idea of like a paradox and loops and things like that. What came first, the chicken or the egg? The idea that like in trying to save their fate, or change their fate, they created it essentially, you know, and that is really interesting to me and always has been. Like, I love, it's like, I really like Looper, you know, it's probably my favorite Rian Johnson film. And it's because of that idea of like, is it always written out what we will always be, or do we have the option to kind of tweak it.
I agree. I love, like I said, that was my senior, well, there were a couple of senior quotes, but the projector thing malfunctioned, so they never get to mine anyways, but it was one of my senior quotes.
That's sad.
Okay, the other two was there is no spoon from the Matrix and roads where we're going, we don't need roads, because I was super profound in high school.
You were ripe for podcasting.
I really are, no.
Little dork. I love
dork
it.
Dorkwad. Yeah. But I think I like that idea of fate too, because especially if I'm looking at it through a feminist lens, because I think as women, we are told in a lot of ways, like what paths we're supposed to go down. And like, you can be this kind of woman or this kind of woman or this kind of woman. And there are like 3 or 4 options. And we're told pretty clearly which ones are more valued too. And so I really loved this idea of it can be whatever I make for myself. I can be who I want to be. And the future is not set by anyone else. So.
Well, it's interesting you say that because a lot of people I've seen, because I went into like a feminist subreddit and I typed in Sarah Connor and just to kind of see like what people think of that. And over the course of, the last couple of decades, it's sort of changed where people actually see her as not a feminist character because it's like you have to take away your femininity to be considered strong, and I think there is weight to that argument. I don't necessarily see it that way, but I can understand how someone could, because you get like Buffy, in the 90s, who is a little glitter pink pen of a character but can also kick ass. And then, like Ripley is another example of like a character like Sarah Connor, where it's like their femininity isn't at the core of the character. But I think that's feminist is like, you don't need to be a girly girl. Like you can be, and that's why I think what you're saying matters here is that it doesn't matter. You can be whatever you want to be, and there's no right or wrong way to be a woman.
Yeah. And like, I understand that reading, but at the same time, it's in this frame of this movie.
Right.
And
exactly.
so it's
And the era that it came out into is like, we were really
like
getting movies
this
like
Sarah
that.
Connor with this stripped down femininity and everything she's gone through makes sense for this character.
Yes.
I do agree. Like, I love seeing that sort of Buffy portrayal of that. Like, that has its place too in that world. And that makes perfect sense. And there are other examples of that.
Yeah.
But this Sarah Connor in this world with what she's gone through, this is who she is at this moment in time.
Exactly.
And you can get into all the sequels and see how that goes.
Oh,
yes,
Goes all sorts
you
of
can.
directions.
I choose.
And
to
I'm not one to say that one movie will ruin another, but I had a really hard time with Terminator Dark Fate. Not saying it's a bad movie, but it just, I cried a lot.
Look, it's hard. It's a hard watch.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk about this new iteration of Sarah Connor, because that's one of my favorite elements of this movie. In our next category, who is she?
I just wish we could all get along like we used to in middle school. I wish that I could bake a cake made out of rainbows and smiles, and we'd all eat it, be happy.
She doesn't even go here.
Do you even go to this school?
Okay, so my queen, Sarah Connor, played by Linda Hamilton. I say my queen a lot, but like, she really is my queen. Like, of
when I
character.
think of you, I think of this character.
Well, that's
same with Charlie McGee. Like, it's like there are some Jen characters that are just Jen characters.
This is a Jen character through and through. Okay, her victims, guards at Pescadero, Dr. Silberman, played by Earl Bowen, who I just love how like pathetic he is, but like in such a kind of lovable, hateable way,
Yes.
Miles Dyson, played by Joe Morton, who I love. Every time I see Joe Morton in anything, I'm like, it's Miles. Oh, he died.
He's such a tragic character.
Oh my God,
just
I know.
A tragedy.
And then both Terminators. She kills both Terminators too.
Yeah, hell yeah, she does.
Her motive to save the world, to save her son, which I also love. Okay, and her weapons, a syringe full of liquid Ruder, and lots of guns, just lots of guns and stabbing weapons and just stuff, like awesome stuff. And I think she uses the Terminator too. So a couple of quotes about Sarah, both from John. One thing about my mom, she always plans ahead. And then I keep hearing it in his voice. Oh, side note, I did name my son John after John Connor. He doesn't go by John.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Oh, how funny.
Yep. Yeah. John is, he goes by his middle name, but that was,
He's going to save the world.
Exactly. I know. I was like,
our little messiah. Thanks, Jen, for you really are
You're
Sarah
welcome.
Connor.
I know.
You're like, I'm going to become this character, whether in some
I know,
way,
I'm going to make it happen for
not.
myself. But he also said she'd shack up with anyone she could learn from so she could teach me how to be this great military leader. Like, I've seen this movie so many times that it just plays in my head.
You know the cadences.
I really do, yeah.
Yeah,
and Sammy, that's interesting that you say that it's almost kind of taking a turn now. And I can see that. A long time ago when I was writing for Consequence, I wrote a thing about the evolution of the female action star. And I feel like in the way that we look at Laurie Strode as a final girl compared to like Neve Campbell or Sidney Prescott as a final girl and some of the newer ones now, like it is a journey. And I feel like they are steps on a path of an evolving trope. And I feel like Sarah Connor is a step, along with Ellen Ripley. They are steps on the path to the female action stars we have now. And they were before, or like really at the beginning of third wave feminism, which was and could have actually been sparked by this. Like, can we still be girly and strong, because I hear that, I see she is emulating Arnold. She is trying to be strong and muscular. Well, and so my question, because I think we get just a glimpse of the original Sarah Connor, but if you watch that first movie, she's got that curly 80s hair. She's very soft. Soft and hard are the two like opposite ends of the spectrum. So how has Sarah changed since the original film, and which version do we prefer? Rachel, what do you think?
I mean, I loved thinking about this because, and what I think is so brilliant about these movies, the first one and the second one, is that journey that we see Sarah go through. And it does fit into the traditional, I mean, it's not new, this idea of the hero's journey, right? Like we see this with Luke Skywalker and Star Wars throughout the whole trilogy and that kind of thing. And we see the same thing with Sarah. So, you know, in the first one, we're getting that first sort of portion of her hero's journey. And then with the second one, we're getting the second half of that. And that's what's so cool because we're meeting her mid-journey. And that's, I think, what's so interesting about the first one versus the second one. Because in the first one, yeah, she's got her normal life. She's put into this unfamiliar circumstance and she's got these humble beginnings, right? She's anybody. She could be any of us, right? And then she's got this event that comes into her life and just completely shatters everything that she thought she knew about the world. And then she gets thrust into this situation where she's forced to answer this call or not answer this call, make this decision, right? And then obviously everything happens in that one. But then in the second one, we're seeing her kind of in the middle of that. She's got these different sets of challenges, and then we get sort of a redemption at the end with everything. And I think that's what makes it so satisfying. And I love that second half of the journey because she's just, I mean, yeah, I hate this word, but I'm using it intentionally. Badass, right?
Badass. I knew it. I do too. I hate it.
But it is.
There's no other word for her. Yeah.
Yeah, we see her become strong.
She is the first badass character. You know, like the word was created for her.
But I think what I find so appealing about her in the second one, and this is the Sarah Connor that I prefer, is that she's strong because of her experience, and but like. She wasn't born that way. She wasn't born a superhero. She doesn't come in like as a badass, right? She just comes in and she builds up to that. And that's what I like too about John kind of giving some backstory. It's like, oh, she's been building up to this point. It's not an overnight transition. She's had to sort of work on this. And I think that's what was also kind of like for me personally, something that I find inspiring about this character is that these kind of things don't happen overnight. Yeah. You can start here and you can build up to that and you can learn and you can go through all these things and like you can become this and it doesn't have to like be one or the other. And so, I love also too that Kyle Reese is part of her story, but not her. It doesn't define her entire story.
She chose to not let motherhood define her.
Well, and like here, you know, she in the first one, I've seen her called like she's sort of this embodiment of a walking womb, right? This idea that she's going to have this child is sort of what defines her importance in the first one, whereas this, she's more than that. Yeah. Like, yes, she's the mother of this child, but now her role in this story, the part that she's playing in this story has gone far past just giving birth to this child, right? And so that's what I think I find so appealing about this character and where she comes and just what version of this character I'm attracted to. But it's all the same character, and that's what's so great.
That's the thing. She kills I mean, you know, we can quibble about her action in killing the Terminator. She kills a Terminator as her waitress self also, you know, like she's super strong in both movies. It's just different. One, she's had 13 years to prepare, you know?
Yeah. But I think that's that's one of the rewards. I mean, when I say that if you watch both of them, you were rewarded with like lore and more backstory, more weight to the character. Because it's like I saw the first, the second one first, and this is just who she was.
Right. She just comes in.
And I loved the character, but I will say that watching the first one second made me like more sure of my choice that I liked this character more because you get that weight of it. Because she's shell shocked and goes from being the person that needs to be convinced to the person doing the convincing. And there's a severity to her now. Like she knows what's at stake, so she's willing to do anything. Like don't fuck with her. She knows that the world is going to end.
And that's the thing. Every time she fights alongside the Terminator. She doesn't let him fight for her. Like every time like he's shooting, she's shooting, or she's doing something else. Like she's never just letting him sort of run the entire show. Like she's literally calling shots right alongside him. And I love that. Like, she's willing to be like, all right, I'm going to go with you and let you, like, I still don't trust you, but, you know, I'm going to keep an eye on you, but I'm going to fight alongside you. And I think that's like a huge, I don't know, just such a cool thing about her.
Yeah.
But now that I've seen the first one, how she's portrayed, you know, she's this like nice and innocent person. Like, I can't help but wonder what it would have been like if this Sarah Connor raised John Connor, you know, and what their relationship would have looked like. Like, I think that's like the real tragedy of the character. You know, she goes from this average girl just trying to get by to becoming this traumatized survivor who has the knowledge that the world is going to be vaporized and the exact date, you know, and that's a lot to endure. And that's why I think, you know, Sarah in T2 is a more interestingly drawn character than Sarah in the first movie. There's a depth and a more definable trait to her, whereas in the first she starts out more as an every woman that the audience can, you know, easily project themselves onto, which is a good thing. But this one is like, this is the woman I want to become.
Right.
You know, I like the first one is the woman I am. The second one is the woman I want to be. And like, they're two very different movies that serve different purposes. Like the first movie, as I said, it's an apocalyptic horror movie and a warning about the rise of the machines. And it's a bit terrifying, you know, in the sense that because the Terminator isn't ever going to stop, like it's going to keep going until it gets you. But in the end, I do think while they are two different movies, each of them stands very well on their own. And I give, you know, full credit to both because they both succeeded in their ambitions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, I asked y'all what version you watched. And the reason that I asked that, I think, is because I was a little persnickety last night when I put the movie on because for the longest time, like, I'm not kidding, I watched this movie like every day. Like, I would watch the USA game shows and then I would put on Dirty Dancing and then I would put this on like every single day. So like, I know this movie in and out. And like, there are scenes like when the Terminator is like chopping at something and then Miles takes the axe, that is an addition. You know, there's a scene with his feet, there's an addition. So like, I pick up on all of those. And so the first time I watched it with it, because it used to just be on like it was a bonus feature. It was additional scenes added into the DVD I had. And I was like, okay, well, this is different. This is not quite my Sarah, you know. And side note,
This isn't my movie.
Exactly. I would get really drunk and I would make people watch this with me and I would just talk through the entire thing and like explain every single
See
thing.
if you can tell which one's like, if this is the real version or not. Like,
but like, so I was watching it last night and I was trying to find the original version because I wanted my comfort movie, you know, but I couldn't find it within 5 minutes, and so I just gave up. But I was watching it.
That's it. That's all it takes. 5 minutes.
I was like, well, okay, fine. But one of the things is that scene with Kyle Reese, and I think watching that watching this movie without that for so long, like I just didn't ever get that softness from her, and I didn't really have a context for that relationship. I was just like, okay, well, John's her son. That's who we, and so it is interesting the way it kind of casts her in a different light, and it alludes to the softness that she used to have and the softness that's still there. And like, she is very strong, physically strong throughout, but there's a breaking point in the middle that I want to talk about where she allows herself to be vulnerable and then finds a way to be vulnerable and strong at the same time, which is what I love. So yeah, I love both versions of her, and I love comparing them because she is always the same person. She always cares about the same thing. It's just because of what she's been through, she's a different version of herself. And I do think it's really interesting. Like, we could go into the whole chicken or the egg thing. Like, would John Connor be the leader of the resistance if he wasn't raised by someone like her? And would that ever have happened if Kyle hadn't gone back in time? So like, there's this whole other version of John that like was a military leader, but just because nobody else wanted to or something. And then,
but I do love that like our Messiah is like, you know, stealing and like breaking into ATM machine. It's like, it takes the trope and flips it on its head of like, you know, our Jesus allegories are all people who come to, you know, they do nothing but good. And John's this like little fucking shithead.
He's hanging out with Butkus from Salute Your Shores.
He's a criminal essentially.
Right.
And so I love that. But I do think there's like, you know, an argument to be made that, I mean, not an argument because it's true. She's a warrior in both films. Like the idea that she is told like, hey, we need you to use your womb to create, the savior of life. And also you're gonna have to raise him on your own too. Like, it's like she has to make that decision. And I'm sorry, I'll be honest with you, I don't like humanity enough for that. If that came up to me or like, if Kyle Reese pops into my room right now and is like, we've got to save the world, I don't know if I would choose to do it. So that shows me that like she's a very strong character, a selfless character too, to go through what she goes through, all in the name of saving a world that is kind of hell-bent on treating her like shit.
Yeah.
Well, and I've always felt like that it's part of her motivation too. It's just that responsibility is just hanging over her head at all times, which also naturally is gonna send her down a path
like
mess with her head. And that's why she kind of ends up, when we meet her in this movie, because it's just that fear and that responsibility of knowing and carrying that weight all the time would be just like oppressive. And so like that's such a massive thing that she didn't have to do. You're right. Like she could have been like, no thanks.
Right, exactly.
I'm good.
Knowing myself, I probably would have gaslit myself into, because I don't trust my own memories and stuff. I'd be like, am I crazy?
Yeah,
like,
that
did I
didn't happen.
imagine
Exactly.
that entire thing? Because they all act like none of it happened. Like, I'm sorry, if I got put into a nut house, like after a one singular person blew up an entire police station in the first one and no one believed me, I'd be like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of my biggest fears is no one believing me.
Oh,
So it's
gosh.
like, I would think like maybe I'm crazy, maybe that didn't happen.
Well,
I don't know if you're allowed to say nut house. I'm sorry if that's bad, but
That's
bad
okay.
in a
we know what you mean. Pescadero.
mental asylum. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and that's I do want to talk about that, just her relationship with John. But there's another lady killer in this movie that I want to talk about. We are going to hop onto a tiny little bike. I'm going to blast Guns N' Roses with Butt Kiss's boombox from the back seat. Do y'all get that Butt Kiss reference? Am I completely dating myself?
I have not seen the show, but I do know of the show that you are talking about.
I mean, I'll sing the whole song. Can't wanna we hold you in our heart.
See, that was cable TV. I was not.
It was
I did not grow up
Nickelodeon.
with
I
that.
was not a Nickelodeon girl, but that was a good one. Anyways, we're gonna get on Budkiss's. It's John's bike, but we're gonna get on it with Budkiss, and we're gonna get in Loser. We're going killing.
This woman will soon cut, chop, break, and burn 5 men beyond recognition. And there isn't a jury in this country that will convict her.
Okay, so speaking of aliens, we got to talk about Jeanette Goldstein, who is in both of those movies, and she is playing Terminator Janelle.
she's in Titanic too.
Oh, that's right. She's in Titanic.
She's the mom of the
Cameron regular.
Yeah, total
really
chameleon.
versatile.
I think she's also
Yes.
in that scene in one of the Lethal Weapons where she jumps on the diving board and then
Yes.
explodes, and it's clearly like a mannequin that's like tumbling through the air. But yeah, she's fantastic. I love this scene. Also, want to give a shout out to Xander Berkeley, who was just like the worst
he's
husband in the
perfect as
90s.
this guy.
I hate
Perfect.
him.
Just come back. Also in Candyman.
Right for like you. I couldn't wait for him.
Oh,
to
I
die.
know.
Like,
And so
great.
this moment, there's this whole scene about Wolfie, and like John says, something's wrong. She's never this nice, which is just our
It's not the
jam.
dog that tips her off. It's just the fact
No.
that she's like, when are you coming home?
Yeah.
We made dinner.
that
Like,
gives
what?
us insight without exposition into what his home life is like.
Exactly. Yeah, that he knows right away. And this moment where she, like, because we don't see, and then something happens, and then she has shot, because she's the Terminator. This is not actually Janelle, but she shot her little stabbing weapon through the milk carton into his
Amazing.
mouth. It's fantastic.
And he dies thinking his wife killed him,
Yes.
which I love
It's
too.
fantastic. Okay, so why does this moment feel so shocking? Is there symbolism here? Because she is in the kitchen, And do we consider Janelle a lady killer?
I don't know if I consider her a lady killer.
I know. I wrote the same thing
Because
too.
it's technically
Yeah.
the Terminator. It's not actually
Yeah.
her.
but a robot is genderless,
True.
So it's like, I mean, yes, they are designed to look like men, but it's like with Ex Machina, which I know is a movie
Oh,
we'll
we're gonna get
eventually
there,
be
yeah.
covering, is like she is a lady killer, but she is a robot too, which is without gender.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little Venn diagram of like things meeting in the middle there for this question that I didn't really start thinking about until you just asked it again. Because when I wrote it down, when I saw it on the outline, I was like, no, she's not a lady killer. She's not a lady. She's not anything. She's basically a robot wearing a foster mom skin suit.
Yeah.
But that's
So-
why it's shocking, I think, because,
Yes.
because you're not sure. But number one, it completely just removes any doubt that, like, yes, this is the T-1000. Like, he has infiltrated the home. Also, we never see what happens to her, right? We don't actually see, like, where is Janelle?
How long ago was she killed?
Right.
Like, where's her body?
Yeah, we
like,
don't know where her body is. Why does he not notice? I mean, obviously,
Well, 'cause
he's a
sucks.
bad man.
He's not a great
paying
guy.
attention. So, like, it doesn't surprise me that he hasn't paid attention to where his wife is, or, stumbled across her body. But, like, I think it is shocking to see this mom figure still talking, like, so sweetly, and then just to kill this guy in just, like, such a decisive, brutal way.
It's the serial mom thing. It's anytime we see a mom figure kill or like, and she's luring, a kid to her trap or their trap, So yeah, that's always going to be jarring for a viewer, especially in those seconds before that it's who it is really under.
And there's that
under the mask.
fantastic moment where she pulls her arm back and she's just kind of looking at it, and it's like, and it allows us to marvel the fact that she is that the Terminator can shapeshift to this degree, but also that it's that she has just done this. It's such a cool moment.
Like it's learning too as it goes, kind of like with each new experience, it's added a new memory to its hard drive. Kind of.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I find really interesting, because I know we've talked in the past about women, or sometimes it's girls, who are possessed by a demon. So are they actually the lady killer, or is it killing in the disguise of a female body, which I think is still really interesting. Like, why do we find this so shocking? Because she's in a kitchen. She's supposed to be, like Rachel, you said, she's supposed to be this motherly figure. And I think
it's the optics.
Exactly. And I think even just him drinking that carton of milk, it's such a wholesome image, and she just pierces right through the middle of it. That's so cool.
It's just brutal. It's brutal. And I do think what's really cool too is the fact that the T-1000 thinks this is how a mom talks to her child.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what's throwing him off. And he's like, why is she like this?
Right.
She's being so nice. And
It's
so
the nuclear family mom.
Well, and I think it just kind of I know we'll talk about this more later, but this idea that this AI technology is like, oh, this is how moms talk to their kids. This is what they do, and that's what's giving them away.
Right, exactly.
Is because no, that's actually not right, but that's what you think. It doesn't have that humanity aspect, and it's thinking like, oh, this is what humanity is. But
my mom never talked to me like that, even when she was nice.
Yeah.
And that's what's fouling him up, and it fouls him up multiple times. And
I like that.
I thinking that humans are better than they are.
Yeah, because that's another moment that we're going to talk about down the road. But it's like, if we're looking at the data that it's taken to form its idea of what moms are, it's like June Cleaver, it's like, Marge Simpson, Actually, probably too early for Marge.
It's underestimating. Almost a little bit, like underestimating the capabilities, like the full spectrum of terrible and amazing, and great and awful at the same time,
right?
That, like, humans can encompass, and it's underestimating sort of on the bad side, which is just I don't know. I find fascinating and an interesting thing that Cameron puts into this movie that didn't necessarily have to be there for it to work. But
it's
I
like
love
it teaches us, like, if something's too nice, don't trust it, because humans aren't that nice.
Well, and I
too
think
good to be true.
We are definitely going to talk about Terminator 3 down the road. But there's a moment.
I don't know if I've seen it.
I mean, it's not as good, but I do really love it. I'm a bit of an apologist. But there's a moment where a female Terminator looks at a billboard and then makes her boobs bigger, because she's like, that's what I'm supposed to do. This is how I mimic humanity to get what I want. So
also, before we move off of Janelle, I do love that this is the same character that played Velasquez. That is very much similar in the same vein as Sarah Connor, right? In Alien.
Yeah.
Very tough, very capable, doing like pull-ups, right? Isn't she doing pull-ups?
She is, yeah.
Yeah, so I just love that we get sort of this through line of these women, and that even, obviously, she's an actor, but to see Jeanette Goldstein playing that version, and then to see her coming in as a mom, granted, kind of a snotty, like not very good foster mom, but still to kind of encompass a more traditional.
She's a good mom in Titanic.
See,
she
there
has
you go.
to die with her children, but she makes it really, like, it's really sweet. It's one of the, I think, more tragic scenes in the film.
Yeah, so even as an actor, like, being able to see this woman be able to portray so many different kinds of women and not necessarily be pigeonholed as just like, okay, you're the badass. Okay,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
the mom, or you're this kind of like
And you can be
grungy
different
lady. Like,
nationalities too.
well, yeah, that too. But
That's not.
and,
But
like,
that's not her fault.
Near Dark, right? Yeah, she's in Near Dark too, and get like a different sort of
Yeah.
version still, but also sort of a motherly figure in that, to see yet another a vampire mom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jeanette
yeah.
Goldstein out here deconstructing mothers, you know?
Yep.
He writes really well, like great women.
Yeah.
Like some of my, I mean, even like True Lies, like is
Oh,
a
love
great
True
female
Lies.
character too. Yeah, I mean, she's obviously a little like meek at the beginning, but like it's a really fun female centric story
Yeah,
too. Like
Cameron's
that's a woman's
also
story too.
same thing like Stephen King. Cameron's been lucky to have some very smart, very strong women
Women
behind
in
the
his
scenes.
life.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yes,
I'm
yes.
sure it helps. I mean, even The Abyss has like a really strong female character too.
Yeah.
Like I think he has in all of them, I guess, except Avatar does too.
Oh,
They
that's
all
true.
do.
Sigourney Weaver, yeah. Yeah, and I think like Stephen King, I think
And Zoe Saldana's character too.
And I think the thing I say about Stephen King, not to get too far down that side, but like he's just it's not that he's specifically interested in women. I think he's interested in human beings, and he views his female characters as human beings, and that's why
Yes,
this
love that.
complexity
That's what Cameron's
comes out.
always said too.
Yeah, exactly. That this is the story. This is what would happen to Sarah. Well, let's talk about John, because it took me a while, I think, watching this as a kid to really like understand the nuances of this story. I think I needed to be a little older, because when I was watching it as a kid, I just kind of was like taking it, and I was like, okay, well, this is the story, and she's mad at him for some reason or whatever. I don't care. They're doing cool stuff, you know? But so when they break her out of Pescadero, there's almost this resentment. There's this hesitancy to connect with him. Like there's the moment where he's trying to hug her and she's trying to feel if he's okay. And so she says, "You cannot risk yourself even for me." And then she says, "I didn't need your help. I can take care of myself." And so this time I was thinking about this because I was specifically looking for this. And I was thinking, I wonder if there is a part of her that resents John, because if not for him, she would have had like a life, like a regular life, you know? And I know that's part of being a mom too. Like there's a part of me that wants to say, like, do you know how much it hurt to have you, you know? Like, but I don't regret it. And so I do really love that we get this kind of push pull where she's like, one, you have completely changed the entire course of my life because of you. And it's not about me. They are viewing me as a walking womb, and nobody cares about me anymore. And if not for you, I could go off and just live my life, and Terminators would never try to hunt me down, you know? So I think there is a piece of her that kind of resents that, but also knows that it's not John's fault. But also this, like, I didn't need you to break me out. I could do this on my own. I could take care of myself. And now you've made my life harder because you're here now too. So like, I don't know. I was just thinking about how I would feel if I were her in this moment.
And I wonder if she would have kids, like if she was given the choice.
No, I think about that too. Like if it wasn't Kyle who was the father, which he's just been like, fuck it, I'm not doing this. Somebody else can be the leader of the resistance, you know?
It also kind of reminds me, like, if you know, I'm sure other people have had their moms be like this, like, "Oh, I sacrificed so much for you. Like, I
brought you into this world.
Well,
I could
just,
take
like,
you out of it.
I gave you all of this thing. I saved up all this money, and you don't want to go to college. Like, what are you gonna do with your life?" And just kind of that, like,
I hear
she's done
Charlotte say, "I gave up Christ for you. Take out the garbage." Sorry,
but it's like, I gave birth to you so you could save humanity, and you're putting yourself at risk.
Exactly.
Right,
and
know?
like, what if something happened and you
Yes.
were trying, and just kind of, I think a lot of it is based in like a fear response. Like if something had happened to you while you were doing this, everything I've done up to this point would have been for nothing.
yeah, and I'm a criminal for the rest of my life, you know.
Yeah,
Yes.
just that fear that like our relationship could have ruined everything, and just trying to like detach out of safety. It's out of self-preservation, you know. It's a defense mechanism, and like so much everything that she's done is preparing, and has been like she's offensively getting ready to play defense.
Right.
And
Yes.
so-
Yes.
and so just I think it's just like a frustration thing, but I love I feel bad saying that. Like I love seeing her be so like harsh and like hard on him.
Yeah.
Because obviously at the same time she's checking him for injuries.
Right.
So it's like, I see you. Like you do care. You care enough to like
Yes.
make sure he's okay. And then the second she realizes he is, she like shuts him down because he's crying. Like, you shouldn't have done that.
Right.
And so it's like this internal push-pull that we see her, this like conflict inside that she's like, I want to care about you, but that's dangerous. And I'm not ready
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want to put myself in that situation.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the moment I think she turns is when she sees Miles' son trying to throw himself on his dad to protect his parent. And I think that's when she realizes, like, this is part of what I love about her, is I think she realizes that there is a nurturing element that makes her stronger. And this relationship with John, that they trust each other, they love each other. It's not about being strong and standing in front of him. It's standing next to him and working together with him and helping him. And that he wouldn't be a good military leader by just surviving until he gets there. It's her teaching him the value of human life and just to be a good person. And I think that's what she realizes in this moment. And that's when she looks at him and she says, I love you. And I think it wasn't until I was starting to think about having kids myself that I think I really got the weight of that moment, you know?
Yeah.
But I think as her kid, you would always sort of wonder whether or not she's doing something for you or for the greater good of the world.
Yeah.
And like when I watched that reunion, I think just given my childhood, I identify more with John's hurt, you know, having rescued his mother only to be reprimanded and denied affection. Than I do with Sarah's frustration with him. You know, like I understand where she's coming from, but as a viewer who doesn't, you know, like I want to be on board with the rescue. I want her to be on board with the rescue. I'm not thinking like stupid kid, you know, what kind of idiot risked themselves to save his mother. Like, but I do think that's again the beauty of the themes of this film is it's of what it's asking the audience to reckon with. You know, the idea that like moms, obviously, you know, all moms have the responsibility of making sure their kids survive, but not all moms have the responsibility of making sure that the world continues.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, so.
And like, I'm sure every parent you have hopes and expectations and dreams for their
or
kid.
a doctor or
and
a
like,
vet.
you know,
like,
that's great and all, but also
Jesus.
at the same time, well, yeah, but at the same time, I'm sure there's moments where you have to realize like they're a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
yeah. And that doesn't mean that they can't like reach those heights that you know, hope for them or,
Yes.
you know, set for them or whatever. But at this, like, it's okay. A kid is a kid sometimes. And just remember, like, they're not an adult. You can't always necessarily expect adult decisions out of children. Weird. What a concept.
And I think one thing that I've noticed as I watch my kids grow up is it takes you back to when you didn't know things or when you learned things for the first time, you know, and you have, and like we were talking about Sarah Connor as a step on a longer journey, it's like this is a moment, a pivotal moment in John's life, and he would never get to where she is if he doesn't have those moments. And part of her job as a mom is to guide him through those. And
well, and he has to remind her of that, right?
Yes.
Because at some point towards the end, he's like, I'm supposed to be this great military leader, right? Maybe you should listen to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, finally, it's kind of like it clicks like, okay, I've set him up for this. It's time to, you know, push him out of the nest a little bit and trust herself that she's done a lot to set him up for success and she's done the work. So let's see it. And I think that's such a big moment for her to kind of let loose a little bit, like let a little bit of the control go, which is, I mean, not much, but a little bit.
But and who's to say she's even raising him right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
she's doing her best, you know?
She doesn't know, like, it's because again, it's that chicken or the egg thing. If he's always become who he's become, was it her parenting style that led to that? If he'd been parented differently, would he always still be this, you know,
nature
would he still be the
nurture,
savior?
right?
Yeah. So it's like, but she will never know if she trained or if she tried to raise him just like a normal kid with the knowledge that she had, would he still be who he is if she didn't train him with this, like, you know, like how Laurie Strode in the new Halloween, like trained her daughter.
Right.
With all the, like, you know, so like, would he still be John Connor if she had not been so strict, I guess. And she won't know. You wouldn't know.
We'll never know. Yeah. I have to tell you, my oldest wanted to try out for the talent show in seventh grade. And I heard about this and my immediate response was to panic. And I was like, I've got to,
because you remember what it was like being like that, a kid.
And I had to just step back and I'd say, it's not my life. It's not my decision. I will be here to help, but I'm not going to make this decision. And I'm not going to let my fear change the course of what they go through or the lessons that they're going to learn. Oh my God, it was so hard. It's still hard. Like, kind of paranoid about
I just watched Welcome to the Dollhouse for my first time. And it's basically like, you know, in eighth grade, Bo Burnham's eighth grade for the 90s. And like the whole time I'm watching this girl go through bullying, such horrible bullying. And it's a really great movie. But like, I also was like, I don't think I could, you know, I know that I'm not having kids. I've made that decision. But there was a part of me that went, I don't think I could have kids also because I don't think I could watch my child go through this. I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I really commend the moms and the dads that have to mentally prepare for that maybe happening to their kid and how they are going to deal with that, because it makes me very, very sad to see it. And I know what it was like for me in school. I saw what it was like for the other kids I went to school with that maybe were a little different. And yeah, I couldn't imagine that as a parent. It always makes me really sad whenever I see stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you have to let them live their lives. You can't go based on what your experience was, because it's not theirs.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, it's hard, and you just do your best. And there's the joke that, like, well, they got to have something to talk about in therapy, or like you're just trying to keep them alive every day. And it's true.
And, you know, like, I don't know, you can watch like Little Miss Sunshine and see the other side of it where it's
Exactly.
like, they have no shame, and like, cool, good for you. Like,
It's
you're
all
a better person than
perspective.
I
It's
am.
like that meme or tweet or something. It was like, my oldest has a face tattoo. Go ahead and bottle feed. Nothing matters. You know, it's
Yeah,
gonna
exactly.
be fine. Okay, well, I want to talk about the character that I think makes her an official lady killer, for the purposes of our podcast, although we were going to talk about her regardless. Before we do that, let's pay some bills. Okay, so I want to talk about Miles. I love him so much. I think this is such an interesting character. He is the man most directly responsible for Skynet and Judgment Day. And as a fellow workaholic, I think, what if somebody told me that I had to delete everything I'd ever written, or like a billion people were going to die? I mean, I would obviously do it, but like, I like this addition where he takes the axe to his creation, because there is that moment of like, but I've worked so hard on this, you know?
And I think that's what sets him apart from so many other of like these characters, right? These sort of like Oppenheimer type of characters, is the fact that he is willing to do that.
Yeah.
That he's willing to listen. I mean, and we see him be like, I think I'm going to be sick.
Yeah.
Like it actually bothers him. And then he does something about it.
He's not like a Hitler, you know,
Exactly.
like would you go and kill Hitler if you had a time machine as a baby?
Right.
You know, it's like,
He's not scared to kill his darlings. And like so many people are, or are just like, well, whatever's going to be will be. And like, that's not what I made it for. But obviously he's got somebody telling him like, this is going to happen. And that's just not necessarily how these sort of like brilliant, wise men in science or whatever are kind of generally portrayed in real life. Or I mean, there are people like that in real life.
they go
who
down
would
with the
know,
ship.
but yeah.
Like,
So I think it's such a cool portrayal of this kind of character, and one that I don't think we actually get very often. So I mean, I love Miles.
I agree.
Just an incredible character, and just a tragic end. And he is the only one that she actually kind of, obviously it's indirectly sort of, but that we could tie Sarah to killing other than the Terminators.
I think so. And I think even then, I mean, I would make the SWAT team is the one who
she sets
shoots
the
him.
events.
But yeah, she's the catalyst for this.
Yes.
Because if she didn't go to his house, he wouldn't be involved in this
Right.
at all. You know,
Because they were planning. I mean, they could just go to Cyberdyne and like destroy everything there and like get the chip and do that all without even involving him.
But that doesn't get rid of the mind that holds the
Exactly.
information.
Oh no, totally agreed.
well,
Yeah.
and I like this idea that she wants him to know what he's done. She wants him to know that.
Because she's been carrying that weight.
Exactly.
She wants someone else to take some of that weight off of her.
Well, and I think there's part of her that's like, I have to think like a Terminator.
Right.
Like, this
Oh,
is what they would
yes.
do. They would come with a single-minded mission, and this is what they're going to do. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do the same thing.
Exactly.
And then she does. And even when she's walking up to that house, and you can hear the music, and it's Terminator.
It swells.
It's
It
Terminator
swells there.
music,
yes,
though.
Yes. I mean, she dresses like him, and she becomes the machine in that moment.
Yes. But then
I
she
think-
catches herself, and she's not.
Yeah.
She's not a machine. She's not a Terminator.
But that's ultimately what changes her mind. Like, 'cause I know that's, what Jen's posing here is like, why does she ultimately change her mind? And that is absolutely nail on the head, Rachel, what it is that she realizes that she is the machine in that moment. And I think what really ultimately is like the breaking point here is that in her attempt to kill an innocent, Miles based on actions he had not yet committed, she realized this is exactly what the Terminator from the first one tried to achieve by killing her for the child she had not yet birthed.
Yeah.
She's becoming the monster she was trying to escape in the first film. It is history repeating itself, and she sees it, and she makes the executive decision to not follow through with it and to not be the monster that she was trying to escape. And we know that this character, like we were saying, had no idea what was to come. He had no idea what he was working on would cause the death of billions of people in the world as we know it. But But that doesn't mean like we need to save him either, or like there's something we have to do. But she ultimately chooses to not sink to that level. And I think that's what makes her a really interesting character and a really interesting character arc here.
That's like, this is the scene that really makes her for me.
Yeah, same.
Because this is where I think we really start to see it's humanizing her in a way that up until this point, it's just been like very straightforward, very militant sort of Sarah. And that makes sense. But I think that this is where we're getting a glimpse of that old Sarah a little bit.
Yes.
And also like feeling the weight of just everything that she's gone through, even, in the time in between the movies that we hear about through John, right? And that's such a critical thing, I think, and what really defines some of these great action characters is that element rather than just like the big muscly like action. Like that's fun, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's the quieter, it's the softer moments that endear them to us. And like this reminds me a lot about like the final monologue in Rambo, First Blood, where we see Stallone like just going off about like nothing is over, nothing, like you just don't turn it off, like it wasn't my war. Like, oh man, that final monologue, like it brings me to tears because it's that moment that you realize like just, yeah, he's really tough and he's really capable. But then you're finally seeing like how hurt this person is and just what he's saying. Like, and I think that this is a similar moment for her and really just, I don't know. I find it very moving, and just the way it's executed too is perfect.
Oh yeah.
And it ultimately heals her, or her and John's relationship, or at least is a beginning, like a stepping stone to them healing their relationship.
Exactly.
Because
she lets
for the first
down.
time, he can see that she is, because like his mom is just there to save him, and not because he like. If I'm him, I would think that it's not because she loves me. It's because she like wants to save the world. She has to, and I think it's the first time he sees her human because he didn't know her in the first movie like we know her. So he's never really seen that side of her. It's only been like training drill sergeant mom, not sweet waitress mom that she was before she had him.
Yeah, and I think the moment that always gets me is when she has shot Miles and she's standing over and she's saying, "I'm not going to let you do it," and he says, "What? I don't even know what I'm."
Doesn't even know what she's talking
exactly.
about.
And I think that there's another moment earlier when John is realizing that this is real. I also love the holy shit moment. I always think about it in the Final Destination when the plane explodes. Like, oh, Terminators are real. Like, this is when he actually sees him. And he says this thing, he's like, and nobody believed her, not even me. So I think there's this guilt of like, everybody turned against her. She was trying to save me. And she also like, this is when she realizes that the company covered it up, which is what she's been saying this whole time. And they're like, no, you have lost your mind. Like, you have lost track of reality. Go into this mental this mental institution because you are not in your right mind. And so to have all of that, like that betrayal, I think, and it's really nobody's fault. Like, I mean, yes, the company sucks, but Miles didn't do that. I don't think Miles knew about this. But so it's this feeling of like somebody, all of this emotion is pent up inside me. Somebody has to pay for this. And in this moment, she wants to make Miles pay. And I think when her son throws himself in front of him and says, "Don't hurt my daddy," that's when she realizes, like, no, it's connecting with people that makes us still human,
But you could argue that moment, like, led to him being the savior that he is, ultimately, is he sees his mother give grace to someone. And that is something that you need as a leader. Yeah. You cannot just be mean and strict and, harsh on people. You have to have love and graciousness and humbleness to you, and to like have to feel essentially. And I think that if we're going to, if everything is and will always be type of thing, this is a moment that I think really did add to his lessons of becoming the savior that he was ultimately going to become in the movies and series that come after this.
You might say it makes him human, or adds to his humanity. So I want to talk about AI because, and I have to say, I've been kind of on like a little mental, like, I don't know, I've been really consumed with this because I just watched Companion for the first time.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yeah, we've
really
talked about it before.
Yeah.
But so I've just been thinking about what makes us real. And I even got to work the other day and I was asking my friend Abby, I was like, what does it mean to be real? And it was like 7:30 in the morning, and we were just talking
It's
about
too early for this, Jen.
Exactly. I know.
Like, man.
But so I was just thinking about this, and I think so. Like, and I don't want to spoil that movie, but there are there are themes of AI and like what does humanity mean, and can a machine gain humanity, and what does that mean? And I've been thinking about that a lot. Okay, so we also have this monologue from Sarah. She says, fucking men like you built the hydrogen bomb. Men like you thought it up. You think you're so creative. You don't know what it's like to really create something, to create a life, to feel it growing inside you. All you know how to create is death and destruction. And I think it is when the Terminator or Skynet becomes self-aware that it becomes a threat. And so there's this idea of what are we using our technology to do?
Mm-hmm.
And what are we using it to take off of our shoulders? Like, I've been really thinking about emotional labor. Like, I yell at Alexa. I use my Alexa to start timers, and when we first got it, I was like, I don't want my kids to hear me yelling at a woman to do things all the time,
Yeah.
And because it's just a subtle thing, So I want to ask, what is Cameron saying about artificial intelligence and humanity? And is there a connection to feminism here? Because we do have, if the Terminator can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too. Now, I'm not saying AI is good. I think AI is bad, for the record, and I do not think we should be boiling our oceans for it. But I think there is an interesting connection to feminism here, because I'm also thinking about the Barbie movie, where what does it mean to be real, And I think there are women, or I've spent part of my life not feeling real compared to men because I was not treated like I was, So what are we saying about artificial intelligence and humanity? Rachel, what do you think?
These are some loaded
I know,
questions.
sorry. And I'm kind of just wondering.
First back, just here. What do you guys think about AI?
What's real? What does it mean to be human?
But it is,
what is existence?
It's fascinating because this movie is, not new.
Mm-hmm.
But just how it's aged and how, like, it's gonna just, like, the conversation never stops with this movie and, like, how it evolves. Because obviously, like, AI, back then was something completely different than AI is now, because we're seeing it implemented and developing at just, like, an exponentially crazy rate and being, like, integrated into our lives. But what I do think is really interesting about what Cameron is saying is that I do think it's a necessary evil, almost. Even with this speech that she's giving, very valid, obviously. However, the T-800 and the T-1000 standing next to each other, we do see it still can be used for good. Because the T-800 is sent back as a tool by the humans to protect him against the T-1000. And if it wasn't for that, who knows if John Connor would have lived. So just the idea that, like, yes, this is bad on this side. However, there are ways to use it properly, ways to, like, harness its power. There are ways to do that. And who knows what you'd be capable of with that. And I'm not advocating for it necessarily, but I think that it's an interesting just sort of juxtaposition of those two ideas. Like, yeah, it's bad, but also there's good things that can come out of these sort of scientific advancements. Like, we've seen that time and time again. Like, sure, Oppenheimer developed some, the atom bomb and all of that stuff. Very bad. But I'm sure there was a lot of really interesting scientific breakthroughs. Like, I'm not, I've said it time and time again, not a woman in STEM, but I'm sure that there was a lot of other scientific breakthroughs that came out of that and led to some other things. Didn't necessarily have to go that far. Maybe not. We didn't have to use it, but I'm sure that there's a lot of other interesting things that were very beneficial. And we've seen that all the time in science, all of these breakthroughs. So I think that that's, just kind of the cost of advancing and evolving.
Yeah.
And it's scary, though. It's totally scary because, I mean, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to talk about current things going on. But, like, in the wrong hands, it can be very scary.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that we always say, like, oh, I don't want AI to do, like, my art or I want it to do my dishes. But it's also like, why do I don't need, like, someone to just do the labor for me either. Like, these are all things that take away from, like, being a human. These are what makes us our species. Is life can't just always be the good stuff all of the time. Sometimes we have to change a tire. Sometimes we have to do the things. We have to unclog the toilet. So,
and we have to keep
but
that
I think
skill set too.
And it's interesting that the things we want AI to do are all things that like women typically do in the household. And I didn't really think about that until you said that, Jen. It's like, because I was even thinking, I'm like, I want AI to vacuum for me, but that's typically like, you know, in
It's
the
been a
nuclear family
feminized
thing,
role.
the mom
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So it's interesting that, and now, I mean, it's going further than that because we're having AI do things that are not just in the home. But I think what I love so much about the theme of this franchise is that it isn't so much look what horrors humanity can create, but it's more look what horrors humanity can become, you know? And it's also about how humanity relies like so much, and I think too much, on technology, and how it's kind of becoming a detriment to our society. It's like, you know, I think of the whole idea of being like hunted by something that is inhuman, like the Terminator is, you know, something so out of this world and something that should not exist and will not like stop until it accomplishes its mission, is something that will make you feel like really vulnerable as a human being. And like, I imagine, you know, a whole army of those monsters. And I can't help but feel like right now it feels like we're set on living out the plot to this movie. It's like we have all of this text, we have all of these things that show us this is bad, this isn't good, and yet we're actively choosing to go the bad path, and I can't really wrap my head around it. It's really confusing for me. And
here's where I think the feminism angle comes in. What I think is really interesting is that idea of creation.
Yeah.
Is that idea of legacy. Because I think it's interesting, you know, Sarah's talking about this. You know, you don't really know what it's like to create something, to feel a life and growing it inside you. And to be fair, like, duh, Sarah, like that's not an experience like Miles Dyson would ever be able to experience. This isn't like a junior situation. I guess Arnold does, interestingly, does experience that crossover. But like, and that's something like I've thought about too. Like, I don't want kids, but I think it's really interesting to think about the idea that that's something I'll never experience. And I just I can't imagine like what that experience, how that changes your idea about life, about your idea of creation, about your ideas about responsibility and your connection to your kids. Like, that's huge. And I do think that there's something about men specifically in this idea of like legacy and wanting to create something so they can live
spread
on.
Their loins.
And I don't necessarily think
loins.
that that's something that, you know, people who are able to give birth to children, like that's something that they maybe, I don't know, Jen, you can speak to this.
I don't
more
think about it.
Right, that doesn't concern, but I would also think that like it gives you a different perspective on like going through that.
Yeah,
probably gives you a different perspective on that idea. Something that people who do want that and yet don't have that option, the drive is maybe a little bit different.
Well, it's interesting if we're talking about creation too, because I remember when my son John was young, and he's got these big blue eyes and these long eyelashes, and I remember thinking, I need to teach him to be nice to women because I want him to be a good person. And so it's like your legacy becomes what your children do.
What you leave behind.
Exactly. And they have just as much of a stake in it. But if I think about Miles, his legacy also becomes self-aware, and it becomes an entity.
It's life of its own.
Exactly.
A different type of life.
But it becomes just as dangerous. And I think I remember watching the show Dahmer and thinking, what if one of my kids becomes a serial killer? Like, what would that be? And how can I make sure that doesn't happen? So yeah, it's a different kind of feeling. Like, you think about what, like, your legacy is going to continue based on the actions of someone else that you can't control. And I think Miles gets that with Skynet. But there's also one of my other favorite lines in this movie. It's full of so many good lines. But one of the ones that I've always kind of loved and turned over my head is when Arnold says, it's in your nature to destroy yourselves. And I think about that so much. And I think,
yes.
Yeah, like we can create tools that help us, or we can create people and we can try to make them good, but we have to actively fight against this nature that we have to combat with each other and to destroy each other and to build weapons. We need to build tools for peace.
And for what?
Exactly.
You know, like,
Well,
that's
just
what
to
I mean. Is
see,
like
just to see what you can get away with.
exactly.
do,
And that's
yeah.
the thing is like I'm watching this happen, and it's like GPT is rapidly killing the
Yeah.
planet. So stupid people
my
can
God.
make fake photos of themselves that'll get like 4 likes and a fucking laugh react on Facebook. And I don't understand it. Like I what's happening, and it's like I did a little bit of research just to kind of put it into perspective for our listeners a little bit how much energy is being used every time you ask ChatGPT. Is like it is literally the US is literally reversing course on coal and gas usage to make up for it. Here in close to me in Santa Clara, data centers use 60% of the entire city's electricity for fucking ChatGPT. It uses 1 to 3 bottles of water for cooling for every question you put into it, which is fresh water, which evaporates and eventually like mostly returns to the ocean, but effectively removing a lot of it from our already like dwindling freshwater supply on the planet. And it's like it also consumes 17,000 times more electricity than the average American home. Like I don't understand how we're seeing these statistics and we're still asking whether like to write an email out for us. You know what I mean?
When we
To make a
that
grocery
skill.
list for
Yeah.
us. Like
Well, and that's the thing that's frustrating because obviously there are a lot of usages and tools that could be like super valuable, but like why do we have to like I don't need that.
But also,
So,
like, I was fine
let
just
the
using
scientists use
Google
it.
and researching it.
That's
myself.
what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
like I don't need access to that sort of technology necessarily, but if you want to use it to like speed up research on curing cancer,
Exactly.
Sure.
That is a good use.
But that's
yeah.
not what
That's
we're
not
doing
what
it
we're
for.
doing.
It's like
Exactly.
we're like all of our resources are being funneled into a machine that makes basically fucking garbage.
Yep.
And it's training an entire generation to never think for themselves and to rely on being handed information spit out from a robot.
well, that's what
and
they're trying to desensitize
Yes,
us to it,
it's
using it
just
and
as
integrating it
in-
into our lives
Yep.
so that
Like-
companies can use it and then we're used to it and then they can use it in sneaky
And
ways.
it's really sinister
Yeah.
and it's very intentional. And they're essentially making thinking optional and calling it innovation. Like critical thought is now like a niche hobby.
Yeah.
Like why form a thought for yourself when you can ask a machine to do it for you? And that's like genuinely terrifying to
Yeah,
me.
it
That
is.
is how you get that's how you get
That's how you get a Terminator.
not-
you know?
Yes, it's how you get a Terminator, and it's how you get hive mind mentality, and it's how you can control news and what is being told to like. So you could just say 2 + 2 = 5, and if a robot says it to you, you're gonna believe it.
Exactly.
Now.
Well, that
And
happens all the time.
Uh-huh.
it's fucking scary,
Okay.
and I don't mean to. Sorry,
Oh,
I don't
no.
mean to go off on that.
Is I'm gonna
tangent.
take
These
it
tattoos
a
on
little
my
further.
knuckles are real.
Yeah.
These tattoos on my knuckles are real.
It says
guys.
love, hate,
That's what it says.
LUV. No, I'm kidding. Just-
And I have a tail.
yeah. Well, okay. So here's why I asked: is there a connection to feminism here? And granted, this has a little bit to do with companion, which I am not going to spoil. But I think part of it goes back to that yelling at Alexa. You know,
I never thought of it like that. That's really
I didn't
good.
either. Can you change their names? I don't have one.
Yeah,
but like,
can I call
can
it
you
Brad
change
or
the name?
Chad or
Hey, and you know what,
something? Yeah.
listeners, change it to a male name and see what that
Alex.
feels like too. Because
Chad.
I think about this, like after Me Too, there are quote nice guys who know what they are allowed to get away with now and what they are not, and they're not allowed to yell at their secretaries anymore. They're not allowed to say secretary anymore, but they still want to have dominance over someone.
They've just found new
And
ways
they've
to
found
do it.
new ways to do it. And the more lifelike we make humanity, the more we are continuing to tell women that their role is subservient, because it gets harder and harder to tell what feminized labor or emotional labor we are offloading to ChatGPT or to AI. And so it's just a way of perpetuating these marginalized communities where we are creating class systems and we are just
And none of us are going to know how to fucking talk to each other
Exactly.
either. Like to another human being. We're not going to. I mean, if your idea of friendship is talking, I mean, fuck, I go on Instagram and there was a whole section of like different types of AI to talk to. There's like different personalities for each one. And that is like, go out and fucking meet somebody. I don't know. Go to the park. Go to the bookstore. Do anything you need to find, even if it's finding someone online to talk
Start
to.
a
That's a real
podcast.
person.
Start a podcast.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's what I did when I wanted to talk to somebody about horror.
I've like seen, and I've especially out here in LA, especially going to as many theme parks as I go to, I've watched people and how they've changed over the last even 5 years, and the way that they talk to people and the way that I've seen people deal with customers and how customers
just
deal with service
rude.
people. it's this like I sometimes I want to go, have you ever talked to another person in your entire life?
Entitled. I feel like there's more entitlement.
We're creating a
and, like,
culture
aggression.
of subservience, you know?
And no one knows what to do anymore. Like, it's like I used to, even when I worked at a stupid coffee shop, I still took pride in what I did, wanted to be good at what I did, and wanted to learn and make sure I knew how things were going on. But now it's just, I'll have someone else do it for me. And that's not to say that I talk a lot about how I worry about the youth, and I do, I really do. And I think that's warranted. But I also don't feel like it's entirely their fault,
Right.
because we are setting them up for failure. And I really look back at my teens and having to be forced to work. It made me such a better person. And I'm just really glad that I've learned how to talk to people, and I learned, just social cues and social what is appropriate, I guess. And I'm seeing that they're talking to machines. It doesn't matter, and they don't even know how to fucking spell most of the time.
Or use a
because
pencil. I've noticed that through my work. I'll be
the
like,
way
hey,
they
can you
hold
write?
it.
And it's like, oh, you don't. Oh,
They
you're having a
hold
hard
it
time
like
actually writing with a pencil.
It's cursive, so yeah, it's things that used to be important that added to the human experience are no longer there. And I wonder what will happen to the world as we no longer have these experiences that were supposed to be universal.
I don't know where else to say this or where it fits in, but I also obviously don't think it's an accident. It's not. It's a movie. Everything's thought about. But the fact that the T-1000 is a cop the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. That, especially in the 90s and LA cop, too. Like, that is during
early
the
ACAB,
riots.
yeah.
Like, this is really,
that and just like this idea of authority and like how
they shouldn't always be
And
trusted.
hive
this
mind,
artificial
too.
intelligence is coming in as like an authority figure and just sort of like operating behind the scenes a little bit and being sneaky because that's what this uniform will get you.
Yeah.
But also,
And how corporations lie because they covered up, how corporations cover up. I mean, look at what we see with the Boeing stuff. We see these corporations cover things up that they don't want us to know about. And we end up suffering
but
for
how
it.
it's a more evolved form, right, of the T-800. And like
Yes.
the T-800, you see Arnold, who's coming in very like, obviously very masculine, very muscly, like a big, kind of what you would think of as a tough guy, right? That's the sort of the form that this model takes to come in and sort of, do what he does in the first one. However, this one's an evolved form. And just so, I mean, I know that they set it up as like the cop is just sort of like coincidence, but it's not a coincidence.
No,
obviously they do it
James Cameron is
intentionally.
very,
But sort of like how this T-1000 with Robert Patrick's shape and physique and everything, and then the cop part of it, just how that's an evolved form. And I think that it's more interesting that this AI thinks that like, oh, we can get away with more if we can blend in more.
wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah,
kind
whereas
of.
obviously Arnold's going to stand out no matter
Like
where
a sore
he goes.
thumb. Yeah. But Robert Patrick is just a guy,
Exactly.
If we look at the first movie, also, like he is known for taking out this police station. And so if the T-1000 is looking at that history and pulling up those news reports and saying, okay, well, if I am a cop, then I don't have to break in. I can go through,
smart.
Okay, well, I want to keep talking about archetypes because, that's my favorite thing to talk about, aside from female villains and Stephen King. I want to talk about that in our next category, good for her.
Claiming she could take it no more, the young mother released the emergency brake, allowing her car to roll backwards into the nearby lake.
Good for her.
In which we look into the camera and we say, yes, we know murder is bad. I feel like there's not a whole lot of we know murder is bad in this movie. There's
bad? Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about mothers. Okay, so
My favorite topic.
Exactly. I know. And I mean,
love
this is
mine.
not,
Just kidding.
we don't have like an official Mother's Day episode this year, but I mean, this is dropping.
this feels like it.
We're recording right before Mother's Day, which I describe as looming now, not approaching.
Yes, same. Same.
But so Sarah talking about the Terminator as a father figure to John, and I joke now, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I feel like he's my problematic dad, because I think I grew up watching this movie and seeing this family, this like nuclear family structure and really wanting this kind of family. But Sarah says the Terminator would never stop. It would never leave him and it would never hurt him, never shout at him or get drunk and hit him or say it was too busy to spend time with him. It would always be there and it would die to protect him. And I think I loved that as a kid because that's what I wanted. And I've talked about what I wanted I've talked about Diane Freeling and Poltergeist too. Like, these were my two early cinematic moms who would do anything to protect their kids. But now that I am a mom, I read that and I say, is that what I'm expected to do as a parent? Because the Terminator can do that because the Terminator is a machine and does not have a life of its own. And again, I'm not saying this as a critique of the movie. I'm saying it brings up a really interesting conversation.
It's a different experience based on where you're at in life. What you've I imagine I would take this very differently if I had children of my own.
Well, and I think I want to talk about the kind of mother that Sarah is, because we've mentioned that the moment with Janelle and then that there's one like Sarah, and that is when the T-1000 is replicating Sarah and asking John for help. And John can tell the difference because Sarah, the real Sarah, does not ask for his help. Which, again, if I were to say my therapist is like, but I'm a child, I'm not responsible for helping you, but it's still, it's this idea of what not necessarily a mother in this case, but what a woman would do. A woman would ask a man for help. So that's what I know to do. So that's what I do. But that's how he's able to tell. So I've thought about so many different variations of this question. Does Sarah love John? Does Sarah want to be a mother? Is Sarah a good mother? What kind of mother does she want to be? But I kind of just want to ask, what do we think about Sarah and motherhood in this story?
I think it's complicated.
Yeah.
I think that she's doing her best to set John up for success. The huge success that she's told that, like he has to be this person. The fate of the entire world depends on it. So I think that she's trying to do the best she can. However, I do think that by the end of this movie, she understands that, or comes to understand at least on some level, that what she kind of sees as flaws almost, that not asking for help, that, I don't know, breaking down those walls a little bit, letting John in a little bit, showing some sort of humanity isn't necessarily a bad thing and isn't going to completely dismantle this entire future for him. And maybe in some way that's necessary. So, I mean, I'm not sure that I can say that taking your kid all over the country, because doesn't he say trains in Nicaragua?
With different men.
Yeah.
And they're running guns and all over the place. I'm not necessarily sure that's the greatest upbringing for a child, that most stable living environment.
Especially if you didn't believe her, too. But it's a very specific situation.
Yeah. So I don't know, up for debate.
Yeah.
on that part of it. But she is doing it all out of this great responsibility, and she's doing the best that she can and the best that she knows how to do. And I think that also John comes to see that as well, which is the real beauty in the film, because early when he's talking to his friend, he's she's crazy, she's in but then once he realizes, wait, she wasn't lying, everything she was saying is true, it completely changes his opinion of her.
Yes.
And now all of
and
that
the relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just they're learning to see each other as humans.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I agree, Rachel. I don't think this is a black and white, it's not good or bad, so to speak, because she doesn't really, quite fit the stereotypical mother figure we see in pop culture, especially during the era in which this came out. I think back then, I think we might have found it odd to praise, Sarah Connor as a model of motherhood. I mean, she's very violent and she's very angry.
Model
but as the
citizen.
Yeah, exactly. But as the film unfolds, we see there's far more to her character, and she isn't hell-bent on destruction for the sake of destruction. She's passionate in her quest to preserve life in the face of dehumanizing technology. She's angry in part because she's been failed by everyone around her, and she's a fierce, physically strong and mentally tough mom who takes a bullet for her son and will sacrifice herself to preserve the lives of millions. And
the scene when they're in the actual asylum, and it's been 6 months or whatever, and she's basically she does everything they ask of her, right? And then
it's still not enough.
It's still not enough.
You're lying to me. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's
because they do.
Sound familiar? You play by their rules. She played by their rules. She did everything. She was the model citizen. She was you're right, you're right, you're right. Just sort of yes sir, people pleasing the whole thing, and then sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, still not enough. And then that's just that I think is really like so good.
I think she sort of blows apart, the sort of narrow stereotypes of like the masculine father, is tough and the feminine mother is nurturing and sensitive. And ultimately, I think what drives her is like a passionate love of life. Because if, to save the world and to go through what she goes through is because she loves life and she loves humanity. She still has some of that. And I think she teaches us that to be a mother is to be strong, selfless, courageous, but also occasionally angry. And it was, I think rare to see any positive representation of single mothers on screen in the 80s and 90s. I mean, E.T. is one of them. But I think that's when we were really first starting to see split families. And least of all one that was, as quote unquote badass as this one. And viewed through the lens of this film, it's like far more about like, it's about far more than robots and post-apocalyptic messiahs. I think it's sort of an homage to single mothers and the difficulties in which they're confronted.
Yeah.
And I think her conflict is probably more relevant than ever in our current reality. Like, I think I speak for myself, but I know there are lots of people like me that think, how can we bring more children into this world while conscious of this like impending, climate crisis, like the political issues, everything going on. And that's why millennials and Gen Zs are sort of questioning the idea of the family unit more than any other previous generation. And I think it's because we're sort of painfully aware that motherhood in the 21st century implies the impossibility of denying that any potential child of mine will inherit like a wounded, if not like dying planet. But I think, what if motherhood and that slither of hope embodied in her son's existence is what gives Sarah Connor the drive to fight for the future and the human race? Rather than the Terminator who simply follows orders, Sarah's quest to ensure planetary survival makes her like a true hero, and to me like a good mom in spite of that. So I think you could argue that maybe her son's saved her. Maybe that's what pushed her going forward.
And like she's willing to evolve too.
Yeah.
She's willing to look at herself. And I think that's what I think does make her a good mom and like kind of does let us know what kind of mother she wants to be, is that she's willing to look at herself and be like, you know what, you're right. And kind of we do see her open up a little bit and be willing to change. And same thing for John. So ultimately I land on the side of she is a good mother. Maybe her techniques are a little, different, but
I think she'd be a bad mother if it wasn't real.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's really what it comes down to, is the moment we realize that, or, as an audience, we know already, but the moment he realizes that all of this is true is the minute you realize that, no, she's a really great mom and she's doing everything that she can. But sure. Yeah. And there's in the alternate reality in which this is just all in her head, a la Shutter Island or something. Yeah. She wouldn't be the best mom in town. She would need some serious psychiatric help.
Yeah.
But that kind of sways the answer a little bit, knowing that she's right.
Well, and I think earlier we were talking about no fate, but what we make for ourselves, and the paths for women. And we are given these roles and we just choose which one we fill. And I think for mothers, it's especially, we see that a lot. Like, you are a helicopter mother, or you're a granola mom, or you make your own baby food, or you're kind of hands off, or you're a working mom. Like, there's so many different.
We don't say no.
Exactly. And I think I don't think she is trying to be a good mother. I think she is trying to mother John and be a good person. And I think that is what actually makes her a good mother, because she's trying to be a good human. And I think about that a lot. Like, I don't want my kids to see my life revolving around them. Like right now, it's a school night. I'm recording with you two lovely ladies while
talking about T2.
Exactly. But Corey is making dinner for my kids, and Corey is doing the traditionally feminized role of mothering right now. And part of that is because I want them to see that a dad can do that too. Like, I am not the only one.
And should
exactly.
do that.
And I also think, because we were talking about legacy, like, I don't want my kids to think that they're my only legacy. Like, I want to.
That's a lot of pressure to put on them too.
And like, I think about what we're doing right now. Like, we are leaving a piece of ourselves behind for the rest of the world. And like, there are things I want to do, and I want my kids to see that, because I want them to know that there is more to humanity than just continuing the race of humans. That being a good parent means being a good person. Like, I think about this a lot.
Or a dog mom.
Or a dog, exactly. Or a dog mom. Or
there's like friendships, anything. There are so many relationships that also matter.
Exactly.
Too.
And I'm not necessarily talking about being a biological parent. Like, Rachel, I know you've got nieces, and Sammy, you too, and I think you can.
Those are my legacy.
Exactly. And I think that's just as important too. And I want, my kids to spend time with their aunt and uncle too, because I want them to know that there's more than just me. I am not the only one that they can turn to, and my life does not revolve around them. And I think it's just being the kind of person that you want them to be, because that's what they see. That's what their model is. And I think I remember watching this movie as a kid and thinking, I could be a mom like this. This is the kind of mom I think I might want to be. I mean, without the whole apocalypse thing and like, dying and, murder robots, but like
fighting robots. Yeah,
exactly. But like, I want to be a mom who is not afraid to stand up for my kids. And well, okay. So let's ask if this is,
and I think you are. You are.
I try. It's, I always say it never gets easier. It just gets different, and it just evolves, and you just got to roll with it and keep going. So is this good for her horror?
Well, I agree with Sammy. Absolutely. Yes, I do think this is, for all the reasons we were just talking about. Like, we get the full arc of her story. We see her go on this journey, and that we also see that, like, she can change and she's not confined. Like, yeah, she can be really, really hard and tough and single-minded, but she also is able to admit when she's wrong. But she can also be just super strong, and she can get shit done, and she can fight alongside a Terminator, and she can fucking kill a Terminator. And I think that is great. Like, we get to see Sarah Connor in the first one and the second one, but even just if we're just looking at this movie, I do think it's good for her, because where we meet her is not where we leave her, and I do feel like we leave her in a better place, and we get, like, she comes to a different realization about herself and her connection with her son. And I think she's going into the future more hopeful and feeling stronger, which is crazy, seeing how when we meet her, like, she looks strong as hell. So, but I think she's stronger in a different way when we leave her. So, but still also very physically strong and capable. She's not sacrificing one for the other.
Exactly.
So because of that, I definitely think it's good for her.
What do you think, Sammy?
Absolutely. As I said, this is Sarah's story. I think it is from the start. I think there's, a lot of young boys and kids from this era that see this as John's story. And I think that really just, depends on when you watch it, when you come in at it. But I think, given the fact that she's like the one doing the voiceover narration, kind of shows me that she's the main character. And I guess I read that in the original Terminator 2 draft, he gave the narration to John. But then, Hamilton delivered this performance that was built on angst and clenched teeth. And it was so powerful that it was necessary to give her the voiceover narration as sort of both an in for the audience to relate to her feelings, and as a means of like communicating that the history of this thing is what's haunted her. But yeah, like, this is her story. It's her story throughout the entire franchise, even the ones that she's not in. Like, we talk about things like characters that haunt the narrative, and Sarah Connor is one of those characters, even after the events of this film.
Yeah, and I think, we've talked a little bit about the first Terminator, and there's this idea, like, I think another element of the story that grows more relevant every day is like this idea of feeling like you're punished for your ability to give birth also, and that your body is they're trying to control your body. And this is just a very literal way. And I don't want to go down too much of a tangent there, but I think we've talked a little bit about Laurie Strode, and I don't think I expected that comparison to come up, but it does feel, especially if we look at the 2018 Halloween, it does feel very relevant. And I remember seeing that Laurie and saying, well, she's Sarah Connor now, and not saying that in a negative way. Like, I love Halloween. That's, it's not, I don't like it better than Halloween or H2O, but I do really love it, mostly because
I think they're fun too. I don't hate them as much as everybody
exactly
else.
And I think most of what I'm interested in is Laurie's story and what happens to her. And I think, we watch Sarah in this really, really strong role, and she's got all these muscles, and I think she looks so capable. Like, she's breaking out of a supermax prison or a mental institution. And I think it's easy to forget how much trauma that comes from. And one of my other favorite moments is when she sees him walk around, get out of the elevator, and you can see this panic, and she starts running back towards the people she was just running from. And so I think, like, I love looking at both of these characters and seeing how you can grow stronger through trauma, but that ultimately strength is learning to admit your fear, or to embrace your fear, to like.
That's what I love about that moment, is that she's able to, like, literally the fear confronts her.
Yeah.
But she's still willing. She gets scared. She takes a moment. She goes backwards, but then she's willing to fight back again. Like, she's willing, like, she it's not like she's not afraid.
She
And I
takes
think
his
that
fucking
that's
hand, you know, like this
Yes.
guy that she spent the last 13 years being terrified of. Yeah.
Yeah, she's willing to move forward, and I think that that's like a subtle but like really powerful
Well,
moment.
and that's like something that like you lose like for my viewing experience the first time is like I didn't understand
Right,
that. 'Cause I
exactly.
got
Why
to
she
the
was
first
scared,
one.
yeah.
I'm like, why are you so scared? Like this guy's cool.
Yeah.
He's here to help you.
He's
guys.
helping your son. Exactly. Yeah.
So it definitely that's another like one of those like kind of things that you get like rewarded with when you do watch them in their correct succession.
Right. And I think like as far as good for me, like, or good for her, it's definitely good for me because I fucking love this movie.
It's good for all of us.
It really
I think.
is. I think it's good for humanity.
Good for humanity. Yeah.
But I also think like if I were to try to pinpoint a definition, it's women who achieve things by breaking the rules or doing things that would ultimately make them look bad in a patriarchal model. And I do think she does that. Like she takes on this masculine persona. She is
Absolutely.
a mother who is stronger. She's not making him dinners at night, you know. And then we even have Janelle, I think, kind of confronting this idea of what a good quote mother should do. And I do think that's good for her. I think that feels good for her. So
You even have the mother, like Miles' wife, too.
Esapetha Markinson,
like, so it's like-
gotta give her a shout out. I love her.
And that's like that. She shows us a different facet of motherhood.
Uh-huh.
What it is like to, you know, because that's a very different one than John Connor experienced and John Connor is getting. You know, this is the family unit that is normal, quote unquote normal. You know, so they really have. He's shown us a lot of different experiences. Yes, of moms.
Well, okay, and we gave Miles props for going and saying, "Okay, I hear you." She does that too, and she lets him
Yeah.
go, and he never comes back. And I think about that family a lot. Like he's just dead. You know, they've lost their father and their husband. You know, he dies for the world. But would we die for this movie?
I tried to do the breath. I don't know if it caught on the camera or on the thing.
Oh
but-
my God. It's perfect.
That was so sad.
Look at her. I would die for her. I would kill for her. Either way, what bliss.
Okay, would we die for her? I mean, this is an obvious yes for me. I would die for Sarah Connor. I would die to be Sarah Connor. I love her so much. I love this movie so much. I think it grows with every time I watch it. There's more to talk about. And I've talked about this, like we covered this on psychoanalysis, and I think I'm even finding more to talk about it now. I've written about this movie before, and I think, speaking of becoming real, when I watch this movie and when I read The Stand, it's like they are in color and everything else is in black and white. You know, it's like it comes alive.
Okay,
I
Taylor.
know. Like just in a way that nothing else does. And that's personally for me. Like if you don't like this movie, I get it. But I mean, I don't. But I accept that.
I don't. I'm sorry. Like, if you don't like this movie, like, again,
What
like,
are we
I don't like
doing?
action movies really, especially around 14, 15. And I was fucking glued to the screen when this came on. Something is severely wrong with you if you don't like this movie. I'm sorry. You heard it here first. Like,
Bold statement, but I agree.
Has anybody ever
Yes.
said they don't like this movie? Like,
I'm sure you can find contrarians on the
I'm sure.
internet.
I know,
Just
but
go,
you're right. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to meet those
When I
people.
was doing research, it was like I would see some that were like, Terminator 2 is kind of overrated. And
Oh,
it was
God,
just like,
get outta
God,
here.
like it, yeah.
Sorry,
God.
no, it is History's greatest movie, and I, for real, think that. You know, like I make that joke a
No,
lot, but
yes.
I think it's a perfect movie. I think it's my favorite of all time. I love it so much for all of the many reasons that we've talked about. And I think that down the road we could do this again and still talk about different stuff. You know, that's how
Oh,
good
yeah.
and like we
and it
haven't
continues to
or
be relevant
different,
and
like,
evolve. Like,
exactly.
Because we
Take
could do
on
the
new
first
meanings.
one
We
too,
could.
and I think we should because now we should do it the way that I watched them.
Yes.
first. So we
Can
just
definitely
go to
do the third one.
last
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And we could do Dark
We could
Fate
do
too.
Dark Fate,
So I think the only one we can't do is the Christian Bale one, which I really like. So
I think we can do that one. I think
Oh, are there? Yeah, maybe
there are
is. It's
no
been a long
rules
time.
here, Sam.
exactly.
Yeah,
we
you know
do what
what?
we want. We are the Sarah
I call them
Connor of
as I see them.
podcasting.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I think it's good for. No, I would die
You're
for this.
gonna die
movie.
for it.
Sorry, I got so excited.
Yeah, I feel that. But yeah, I would absolutely die for. I would die for over and over. I would just send myself back in time over and over again to keep.
Okay,
dying
that's
for.
the thing I forgot. We haven't even really talked about the action sequences and how incredible they are. Like that's a whole.
And I
other
live
thing.
next to one of them. I want like every time we drive past the canals, I'm just like,
stop.
like I want to be down there.
I would
and,
die.
Like
I would.
Mike and I want to find the exact one so we can try to get on.
Do,
It's
do,
not
do,
the
do.
safest down there,
Do,
but
do,
we
do,
can
do,
figure
do.
it out.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, action sequences, the CGI, like the visual effects, like come on.
The music, the
Yeah.
score.
Well, that's the thing. Like every single thing about this movie, I feel like is perfect on every level. The editing, the action sequences. I mean, okay, there's a couple scenes where you can see like, okay, that's definitely not Arnold. That's definitely
yeah.
But like the twin stuff is really cool too, because like they used her because Linda Hamilton has a twin, and so like for that scene at the end, it's her twin, and that's why it looks so awesome. Like just that I'm sorry, like it is very rare. It shouldn't happen that a sequel is like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything's a little
Ghostbusters
different
too,
now.
okay?
But like even like
Mummy
and
too.
Jurassic Park 2 is really good.
The
And
Godfather
like,
too.
It's like there, but like this is really
Aliens.
when I
All right,
think
Scream
of
2.
Alien and James
Scream 2.
Cameron still. But Scream 2, I too. Yeah, it's okay. What am I
All right,
saying?
Cemetery
Fuck me.
2.
I'm just an idiot. They're all great. But like I think like it's very rare that like this is like to me like this is cinema. You know what I mean? And it is very and the first one is too, but like it's just like we were saying, like you can put this movie on. You don't need to see the first one. You don't need to know anything about it, and you can still have a really good time. You can be a girl who likes Barbies, and you still like Terminator 2. Like I can attest to that. You know, Sarah, I think she has like by far one of the best character developments in film history, and is the only character with agency in all of her iterations. You know, she accepts her role as a hero not just for her own survival, but for the betterment of all mankind without hesitation, and takes charge of her own fate. And like Jen said, it's a masculine movie, but it's about a woman, and I think it's this contrast that allows this character to expand far beyond what women were usually permitted to do and to be in action movies. And I think she really does serve as like a tribute to the strength and adaptability of women, and like this like a symbol of what we can do and will do if their survival and the survival of their children is threatened. And I read in an interview, I guess this was back in like 1991, Hamilton said, "I know it's a foolish thing to say, but after T2, I don't think anything can hurt me." And I think she's not alone, because as we can all like attest to, we've all been three of us have been talking about tonight, like, you know, she's been giving women a sense of strength ever since. I feel like she gives me the feeling that like
made me cry.
nothing can hurt me. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if Sarah Connor can get through that, I can get through this. I can get through the shitty shit I have to go through, the shitty shit I went through as a kid, you know? And so I think this is a really important movie to show our daughters, our nieces, you know, young girls. And like, not just because there's a great, you know, young male character too, but because there's an incredible strong female character that we really, I mean, we've gotten strong female characters since, but none that really, I think, covers every base quite like Sarah Connor does.
Yeah, would I die for over and over again, time and time
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
Like this,
We're just gonna keep going
Send me
back.
back in time. I will die for.
yeah, everything, echoing everything you guys said, and like I do love how this movie continues to resonate with me on different levels. Like as I get older, and it was so cool seeing it as a kid for different reasons, and it continues to be cool, and I love that. I love that this character is able to hold her own, but she's not perfect. And I think that's what I find like most empowering about her, is that she can be really flawed, and getting to this version of her too, like took time. And I appreciate that, because you know, you can't transform necessarily.
We all take time. All of us, every one of our personalities has taken this long to, you know, become what it is.
Yeah.
And we all will continue to go through character development, and her character does too. I mean, if you do, I mean, I know we all have our issues with like where the franchise goes, but her character continues to change and adapt as the series goes on.
Yeah, and like I said, just every element of this film is perfect. So this is like always a 5-star, no notes kind of film for me. Like it's just so enjoyable, and to have something this like action oriented, this exciting, like there's just like such a feeling like of adrenaline, and like the pacing I feel like is just like so perfect, and the set pieces, like this is one of the greatest films like ever made, and I don't think that there's necessarily a lot of people who would argue with that.
Exactly.
You know, there's a lot of movies out there, but this is definitely just incredible, and for it to be a sequel, like that's wild.
Exactly.
So so cool.
Well,
I mean, yes. Do I think Puss in Boots: The Last Wish?
Hey, that is a good
is
movie.
Great.
I did like that.
Sequels.
Yeah.
Big list. Greatest.
It is.
It is good.
Terminator 2, Puss in Boots 2. It's very close.
Same thing. Yeah.
What's so funny too is just like I've been watching this version of Arnold for most of my life, and now I'm watching like The White Lotus, and I'm seeing and Gen
His
V,
son,
and I'm seeing
yeah.
Patrick Schwarzenegger, and I'm like, I see it. I see the
legacy.
Exactly.
It's weird. He's not my stepdad anymore, but my mom's ex-husband lives down here in LA, and we went to dinner. Mike and I went to dinner with him and his girlfriend, and he lives in Patrick Schwarzenegger's old house. So like he bought the house from him, and he had left his like weight equipment, I guess, behind and stuff. And he was like, "Oh yeah, do you think his dad was here and stuff like that?"
Yes.
Like, so Mike and I, whenever we were watching White Lotus, I was like, we've been in his house, or the house that he used to live in. And now he's being talked about for the next Patrick Bateman, which honestly the movie doesn't need to exist,
Yeah.
but I could see
If
it.
anybody's gonna do it, let it be Luca, and
can
give
see
it
it.
to me with Patrick Schwarzenegger.
Yes. I'm down.
And
not that that's on topic, but
Exactly.
anyways, just
little
piece of
conversation
trivia,
for
Sammy
another
trivia,
day.
yeah.
Yes. And on that note, let's wrap up with what's coming next.
Unlock the next configuration. And then the last. No. I've done enough. Enough is a myth.
Rachel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh gosh, no problem.
T2 with you.
Yes, so much fun. We are going to see you again soon. But in the meantime, where can listeners find you online, and what do you have coming up?
Oh gosh, yes, you can find me over on Instagram at the Vinyl Girl, GRRRL, and over in Halloweenies. You can tune into Halloweenies. We've been covering all sorts of Universal monsters this year and this next month here in the month of May. We're in May, right? Yes, May. We're talking about the Phantom of the Opera. So we're getting dramatic over there on Halloweenies. So very excited. All sorts of things Phantom happening over there. So yeah, tune in to that. And then yeah, on the Boys and the Girls, we're also talking about, well, kind of opposite, but like tough dudes lately. Supermen of a different sort, not robots necessarily, but superheroes. We've been covering all the Superman, and next we're doing Brightburn. So Super Kid.
I've never seen it.
It's good.
I really would like to. Okay, yeah,
I liked it.
I'll have to check it
Quite a
out.
bit,
Yeah, I've
yeah.
heard good things.
Yeah. It's in these. I feel like in a lot of ways are kind of companion podcasts. You know.
Yeah.
If you want to follow the show, you can do that on Twitter at the Lady K Pod, and on Instagram and Blue Sky at the Lady Killers Pod. You can find me at Jim Ferratu on mostly just Instagram these days, but you know, anywhere social places can be found. You can find me hosting the Losers Club podcast, and we are talking about Never Flinch soon, which is a very like lady heavy book. There are a lot of female characters and a lot of feminism in it.
It's a Holly book.
It is a
isn't
Holly
It's another
book,
Holly
and
book,
it
yeah.
is some gin bait too. Like I'm excited to
Oh,
talk.
I'm so
Oh yeah,
excited.
there's addiction and there's feminisms, and that's gin bait.
And patriarchy.
Exactly.
If there's patriarchy, that's
That's
the whole
exactly
trifecta.
that's the trifecta. Well, and also, okay, so on Murder Made Fiction, we are talking about Elizabeth Bathory, which is
Look at
another
you
lady.
go.
It's just like everything is coming together. You know, it's the summer
All
of
one
Jen.
unit. The Jen multiverse.
Exactly, yeah. And then Rachel said we're talking about Superman, on the girls on the boys, and then you can find me writing about stuff. I just wrote about Baby Girl, which was
Stuff.
a whole, just stuff. But
stuff.
follow me at Jim Ferratu, and I'll post it all. And Sammy, where can listeners find you online?
You guys can find me as always on Instagram and Twitter and Letterboxd at SRK Doll. I keep thinking when I get married, what am I going to change it
Oh.
to? SRR Roth?
SRK Roth.
SR Roth.
SR SR off.
It's
SR
like
off
whenever I
man.
see Rachel's, I want to do grrr, like I want to
Grrr,
growl
yeah.
within yours, or like grrr, arg, like at the end of Buffy. But that's where you guys can find me. I have been really into logging my movies on Letterboxd. I'm having a lot of memory issues all of the time, so I'm just like, I've got to put them in so I know exactly how I feel about them.
Yep.
I have like a list always going. Right now, I am back in my Star Wars era, which is not something I ever thought was going to happen, and I think is very indicative of the world at large.
Andor's so good.
So fucking good. That's what got me back in. That's what got us back in. And we just did our second of 2 Star Wars nights and got home from them. So yeah, and I'm rewatching, or I'm rewatching the movies, and I'm watching the animated Clone Wars series for the first time, and it's fucking fucking great. I'm like 4 seasons in. I know Caffrey watched it too, so I got to find time to talk to him about that. But anyways, if you guys want to follow along my Star Wars journey, you can do that there.
And that's it for our episode on Terminator 2. Sometimes I just kind of flip through pictures on IMDb, and I just ended with Sarah about to carve no fate but what we make for ourselves into the table.
So good.
Love it. Thank you so much to my esteemed panel. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. If you liked this episode, please give us a quick rate and review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps people find the pod, and it makes us feel good.
Makes us feel good.
We are going to be back next week with a whole team of killer ladies, a house full. We are watching the 27 remake of The Beguiled. So it's going to get hot.
First time watch for me.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And I'm watching The Virgin Suicides for my first time too. And it's with Sofia Coppola and Kirsten Dunst, like in like a Q&A. So Mike got tickets really fast. So we're really excited. So I'm getting 2 Coppola movies the next 2
with
weeks.
the bonus of super hot 70s Josh Hartnett in there too.
Perfect. Oh, I didn't even know he was in it.
No, he's not in The Beguiled. He's in Virgin
but
Suicides.
he's in The Virgin
I
Suicides?
believe we
Okay.
get Colin Farrell though. And
Things are going really well for me. Things are on the up and up.
looking up.
Yeah.
But until then, remember, ladies and ladies, support women's rights, support women's wrongs, and we got to say it together. Hasta la vista, baby.